We're very fortunate to be joined once again by Dr. Jenny Brockis, author of Brain Fit. Welcome back.
Thanks very much, Nisha. Pleased to be here.
Great. Now today, what topic are we talking about?
I thought we'd talk a little bit about stress.
Ooh, now that is a very good topic to talk about, because I think often we throw that word around. What does it really mean?
Well, a lot of people talk about being or feeling stressed a lot, but basically stress is a physiological response to a situation, and it affects our body, and it affects our brain and our mind as well. And it affects us in different ways. Not everybody will be affected to the same extent by a particular event, and we recognise that.
Okay, so a particular situation happens and we choose how we react to that situation.
That's right.
And that can be potentially by a stressed response. So psychosomatic responses, which are sometimes spoken about in the media and by doctors, when people may potentially feel a bit of anxiety, maybe around speaking, and they may, sorry to say it, but you know, maybe vomit before they speak or whatnot. Is that something that's associated with stress?
Very much so. The American Medical Association recently came out with a figure that 60% of all illness and disease can be attributable in some degree to stress, which just reflects how much stress impacts us in our society today.
Goodness, and also the importance of knowing how to manage that stress.
Very true.
60%.
Yes.
So what are some of your hot tips? What can we do to manage our stress?
Well, I think first of all we need to recognise that not all stress is bad, because we tend to assume that stress is a bad thing to have.
Sure.
But in fact, we need stress. We need a little bit of stress to get us out of bed in the morning, so we feel excited about a new challenge. And we cope with stress either in the acute phase, so it's something new that's just happened and we need to respond to it appropriately, such as going for a job interview. You get a bit, butterflies in your tummy and stuff like that. But once the event is over, then your stress levels settle down and you feel fine. The other sort of stress, which is the stress which isn't so good, is the severe chronic stress. And that's the stress which impacts us, both body and mind. And that's what we need to be focused on today.
Sure. So in terms of short-term stressors, they obviously lead to the chronic stage. So is it best we also focus on making sure we know how to respond in that immediate situation? So if I feel stressed in a situation, what are some of the things I can do to decrease my stress?
I think if you notice that you're feeling stressed, the first thing to do is to just stop and acknowledge that.
Sure.
Quite often we try to ignore it or suppress it, and that's one of the worst things we can do, because it doesn't go away.
Yeah,
so we need to
I don't get stressed.
We just need to think, okay, I'm feeling a bit stressed here. What's actually going on? What's causing me to feel this way? And just notice what impact it's having on your body. Is it making you feel a bit nauseous? Can you feel your heart racing? Is your mind going a bit blank? And then think, well, what have I done in the past that has actually helped me to overcome these feelings that I'm experiencing right now? And then we can sort of go on from there to look at other ways that we can help to manage our stress levels more effectively in our everyday lives.
Okay, so just to clarify, you need to make sure that you learn from previous situations where you felt that stress.
Definitely.
Is there anything I can do if I'm the type of person that likes to write things down?
Yeah? Okay, well, I would say these following top tips. First of all is stop. When you're feeling really stressed, just stop and breathe. Just take a deep breath in, big breath out, and just think, okay, what's going on here? Second thing to do is then to say, well, is this a situation that I can change or I'm in control of? Because we often spend an enormous amount of energy worrying and stressing about stuff that we have absolutely no influence on. We can't change the situation. And it's a huge waste of energy. We make ourselves quite sick through things that we can't change. So sometimes we have to recognise we just simply have to let go.
So whether it's in our control or out of our control?
That's right. Distinguish what we can change and what we can't. And if we can't change it, move on somehow and let it go.
Do you find also it's good to talk to others, whether it be a loved one or a counsellor or
one of the most important things we can do is to seek some help or advice. It may be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a GP. I think because stress can affect us so adversely with our health, it's really important to know when it's time to seek appropriate help.
Wonderful. I also know that we can write lists sometimes if we're not too sure, because I know some people are very good with working through situations in their minds, and others might prefer to write a bit of a list about the pros and cons of a situation. Is that something you suggest as well?
some people do find that helpful. If they're worrying about something in particular, they can say, well, what are the advantages of the situation here and what are the disadvantages? And sometimes just looking at it written down or thinking about it in a quiet place can just help you to mull a way through the mire and say, well, actually, this is the best way for me to proceed from here.
Wonderful. So understanding your stress and then employing one of those methods we just talked about can really help you sit back and, I guess, try and relax a bit more in a situation which would otherwise be a little bit daunting.
Learning a relaxation technique can be so helpful, and there are so many different ways we can learn to relax. Now, some of us will choose to relax by actually undertaking exercise, going for a walk, maybe along the beach or going through the park. Some of us will learn how to meditate. Some of us will go and do yoga or Pilates, something like that. Anything that we find helpful, just to help us just to relax ourselves.
You can try various different techniques.
Sure.
Thank you so much for joining.